Hey guys, thanks a lot for joining. Today I would like to show you how to automatically delete records in Airtable. Airtable automations allows us to create records. Actually, in fact, only create a single record at a time. But we have no way of deleting records right out of the native features of Airtable. So we have to write a little script for that, which we're going to do now. So the base I have here is a crypto tracker base that I actually used in a newsletter yesterday. It's fairly simple. We have coins and portfolio. The coins are sort of listed by symbol here. And what I want to do is I want to automate the deletion of coins that don't have a portfolio connected to them, because I simply don't need them. And I want to build an automation that basically checks every day, let's say in the morning, whether there are any symbols that got or coins that got created that have no portfolio attached to them. So let's do it. We say create an automation. Let's call it daily cleanup. The trigger is a scheduled time where we say day, every day in the morning at 7 a.m. We want to do something. And then as an action, we select run script. This scripting action opens up, and in here we can write our script. So what I like to do is I like to sort of jot down quickly what my goal is for the script. So in this case, what I want to do is I want to clean every morning at 7 those records that don't have a portfolio linked to them. So goal, clean records where field portfolio is empty, basically, aka no records from portfolio are linked. So the first thing we always have to do is we have to grab our table and our records, because we want to loop over those records and then check whether the portfolio field is empty or not. And if it is empty, we delete those records. So the first thing we do, depending on how familiar you are with scripts in Airtable, you have seen this before or not, the first thing that I always kind of do is you say, let's grab the table we work with. So we have this sort of base property, and we can say base get table, open brackets, open quotes, and then we also get like an auto completion here. In this case, we want to grab the table coins. Let me close this quickly so you can see it. So we have this coins table here, and this is where we want to find those records automatically in the script. You can always do a console log. So if you do a console log table, you will get some properties. In fact, you get an like this table object here, where you can see the ID and the name and which fields there are and which views it has. In our case, we have 8 fields in that table. So we want to work with those records. So what we have to do is we have to query for those records. So often it's called like a query, and we have to await that call. We say await table dot select records sync. We could close here and this would work, but in our case we only need one field of the of those records, so we can limit the amount of fields that we query for. So we can actually open it like with curly braces. We can say fields and like this, and this one is actually called portfolio, I think. Good that we have console logged our fields here. Yeah, So this one is called portfolio. So this basically says only give me those records, like query those records and only give me the field portfolio. So that's what we have access to. If I console log that just to show you what it does, we kind of get an object with like 2 entries, and one is like a records entry where we have an array of all those records in the table and their names. Unfortunately, I haven't given them a name, so they're all unnamed, but it doesn't really matter for what we're doing here. So in other words, the records live on query.records, right? If I would console log that, I would get only that array of objects and array of those record objects. Okay, so what do you want to do now? We have those records. We kind of want to find those records where the portfolio field is empty. And actually in JavaScript we don't find, because the find method in JavaScript only gives us one record, but we want to check for multiple records, so we actually want to filter. We want to filter for those records where portfolio is empty. So filter for records where portfolio is empty. Field portfolio is empty. So let's say we call this empty records. And we kind of want to loop over all records in the table. So we know that our records live on query.records, and now we can use our filter method where we say .filter. And yeah, I don't want to get too much into JavaScript here, but basically there's like a short notation which goes like this in order to declare the function that goes in here. So we filter like a rec, like short for records. The records where the cell value, so it actually gives us the right auto-completion here already, where the cell value of portfolio is equal to empty. And what's empty in JavaScript? We do null. Equals null. Let's see what that gives us. It gives us 2 records, which is good, which is exactly what we wanted. So all that's left is delete found records, and we delete by saying await table dot delete record or records, but in this case we have potentially multiple records, like we do in this case too. So we say records async, and then in here we have to give the records that we want to delete. So now the question is like, what does delete records async want from us? Like, what does it take as an argument inside? And we can sort of see it here. It takes a string of record IDs. It's actually not that easy to see it here. Often I'd like to go into the documentation here in case I don't know how to do something, and just check the Airtable's documentation down here, where you can sort of search the docs for, in our case, delete records async, and then you can see very well what it sort of takes as arguments. In this case, it takes just an array of record IDs, basically. Yeah, so an array of strings. The thing is that what we got out of here, so empty records, is an array, but it's an array of objects, not an array of strings. So we'll actually have to change that array which we add to our delete records async. How do we do that? We can map, like another JavaScript method, we can map over that empty records array and turn those array entries from objects into strings. We could do this like on one line, but in order to maybe in order to make it a bit more readable, I just create a new variable for it, where we say const empty record IDs. Let me call it like that. Which we do on empty records. We say dot map. We once again have records in there. And what we want is we want to not get the cell value, but just the ID. So we have a couple of things that live on that object here, and we can just take ID. And this, if we comment this out for a second, and we log empty record IDs, I hope we get an array of those record IDs, and we do. And this array of record IDs, we can actually pass into our delete records async function in order to delete those records in the table. So if I run this now, like let's go back real quick, where you can see we still have LTC and GST in here. If I run this, hope it works. Test ran successfully. If we check, they're gone. Those two coins disappeared. This actually, like, often it makes sense to check whether something is 0 or empty. In this case, often like the compiler in here also warns us if something could be empty or could not exist. In our case, this is not necessary. So this would also, like now, for instance, like if I do this again, we don't find anything because all the coins that are left, of course, have portfolio. So this is gonna give us an empty array, and it still works. So it's just not deleting anything. Yeah. So sort of on an empty array, we don't have to check for 0 values or an empty array. We don't have to do that. Yeah. So that's how you can very, very easily create a script which deletes records every morning at 7 a.m. Based on the criteria we set. Of course, you can expand this to whatever you want it to expand it to. A little bit of a warning, and I'm not going to get into it now, but please let me know if I should in a future video. This is going to fail for more than 50 records, which is because basically if we check the documentation again, delete records async, you may only delete up to 50 records in one call. So there's a little bit of a workaround of how to sort of batch process the deletion. Same goes for creation, same goes for updates, how you can sort of batch process that by slicing the array you feed into the function. But yeah, I think I'm going to get into that in a future video, and yeah, please let me know if you need to know more about it. Hope this was enjoyable for you. Hope you learned a lot, and yeah, just let me know if there are any questions, and see you next time.